Hey guys, welcome back to Home Theater Gurus. So a few weeks ago I get this email, right? And usually, as a YouTuber, we get a lot of spam emails, people trying to edit videos for us, and it's all baloney and they're not legit. But often I do get like, hey, do you want to review this? Do you want to review that? And a lot of those are spam as well. So I get this one saying, hey, we'd like for you to review our Bluetooth speaker. But for some reason I go ahead and I click on the link and immediately my interest is piqued because I'm looking at this Bluetooth speaker that is honestly one of the coolest looking Bluetooth speakers I've ever seen from an artistic point of view. I mean, it's just a stunning looking speaker. So this actually came in yesterday. My wife, she wanted to open it yesterday. I had to tell her, no, I have to do an open box on it and just do a little intro before you can play around with it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm opening this box up. We're gonna look at it and then I'm gonna let her try it out. We're gonna try it out and then I'll come back with a review. So let's go ahead and open the box. Even has this little emblem right here and it says TreSound1, which is the actual model number of the speaker. Oh, a little pouch, what's in here? We've got a power adapter to plug it in. We have a 3.5 millimeter cord audio cable, for plugging in your phone or like Alexa or something like that. Well, Alexa would be cool in something like this. So we've got our rest of our AC cord for our plug in there. All right, let's go ahead and take it out. Now, they did allow me to choose the colors. There's like a green, like a forest green, a black and gold. The wife, she liked the white. It's got some weight to it. It's not light. All right. Man, that is a good looking speaker. If we can call it a speaker. It doesn't really look like one at all. All right, so it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I've had this speaker. I've had plenty of time to check it out, listen to it, and get a feel for it. So of course the exterior of the speaker is what's going to wow you when you first see it. So if you're a speaker guy or gal, one thing you probably know about is the knock test. And people walk up to a speaker and they knock on it. If it sounds hollow, the cabinet is thin, kind of cheesy. But if it does this, sounds like you're hitting a brick, it's a very, very solid cabinet. This is not particle board or plastic. This is actually real wood, and it's lots of slivers of wood that are glued together. It's sanded down into the cylindrical shape you see here, which is very, very striking. I mean, it's just a beautiful cabinet. And then there's a total of 4 piano paint processes. Now, I don't know if that means it has 4 coats of lacquer or, whatever clear coat is over the white or whatever the color. This is in Snow Peak, by the way, and there's 2 other colors. There's a black with this is gold instead of silver, and then there's a green where this is gold instead of silver. But so I guess that it's 4 coats of lacquer, and then it is polished 13 times, which is a ton of polishing, and it shows because it actually has depth to it when you look at it. It doesn't look like a shiny piece of plastic or even just some cheap wood that's been got a shiny coat on it. It actually has depth to it. And all of this is aluminum alloy that has been CNC cut, so everything is high quality. On the exterior, everything is well built. Up here, this is how you turn it on. You actually just grab the top and you twist. Now, when you grab a knob or something like that and twist it, you can tell if it's cheap. The way this thing rolls and feels, you can tell they even paid attention to, to make sure they didn't have some cheap little rheostat or little on-off knob up there. But so I just grab it, turns on, and I turn it all the way up, and then I just use my phone to adjust the volume of it. Right now it has a little amber light on top up there. It's flashing because it's looking for a Bluetooth signal. This has Bluetooth 5.3. Had no problems at all connecting to my phone via Bluetooth. It found it right away. There's also a 3.5 millimeter jack in the back that you can use, and I actually used that jack. I took measurements of this speaker with REW to actually see what the response looked like. I used that. I also compared listening to music with the jack versus listening to Bluetooth. I did find that listening to it with the jack sounded a little bit better, a little fuller to me than it did via Bluetooth. That could have just been my phone. Who knows, but it sounded very, very enjoyable with both. So it wasn't really a knock on it. It's not like it sounded bad with either one. It sounded really good with both. So we're going to talk about the sound performance here in a little while and look at the measurements. And we even compared it to another speaker, a little small, like soda can looking JBL speaker. I think it was the Extreme 3, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this is a three-way speaker. This whole bottom section right here is basically like a little mini subwoofer. You know, even though it doesn't go super low, you know, I'd call it a woofer, but it's kind of like a woofer enclosure, and it handles the bottom end. And the woofer is actually in here, and you see this bottom is illuminated when you turn it on. And if you look in there, you can actually see the woofer driver in a small port. So this is a tuned enclosure for that woofer. This would be something like that you would expect to see like in a small bookshelf. That's a 5 1/4 inch driver, you know, on the bottom, so it's a decent sized driver. Now, the mid-range and tweeter, there's actually 2 of them, and they use something called TTT acoustic structure, where it has more of an omnidirectional sound, and it uses pairs. It has 2 mid-range drivers, and those mid-range drivers are 2 1/4 inches each. So there's 2 1/4 inch mid-range drivers. So that's pretty decent sized drivers. The tweeter, it just says there's 2 of them, 25 core silk. And that's the triple T technology, supposed to be really good with omnidirectional sound. And I have to admit, you know, I can buy that. It does a really good job of just filling a room with sound. It's not like a monopole, like a standard speaker. You have 1 tweeter, 1 woofer, just standard technology. And they're more forward firing. As you move off axis, you lose a lot of the upper energy. This does really good at just giving you good sound no matter where you're at in the room. Now there are spots, you know, if you're really listening to it, which we did when we were testing it, we were listening to the high end, you know, the treble, and we would stand, you know, directly in front of it at like 0 degrees, and we kind of move off axis 30, 45. And there were spots where you could hear it kind of lost it a little bit. Now, in room or in actual use, you probably wouldn't notice that because you're not going to be critiquing it like we were doing. And on top of that, it's much better sound than you would expect out of, you know, just a Bluetooth speaker. Most people think of Bluetooth speakers, they don't think of good sound. Personally, I think one cool thing that you could do with it is take like an Alexa, you know, like the little puck, connect it to the 3.5 millimeter and use that to, you know, kind of be your Alexa speaker. You can tell Alexa to play music. Now this does have TWS, where you can pair 2 of these up and have like a left-right configuration, or, you know, kind of expand the sound into like other rooms if you want to do something like that. Or if you have just a ginormous room, you know, my room, my living room, kitchen area where we use this it's probably 30 by 40, and it had no problems whatsoever, you know, filling that whole room with background sound. This is actually probably going to go in my living room once I get my living room wall feature. This is kind of a new house, so we haven't finished everything yet, but this will go in my living room just for background sound or background music. For now, though, it's probably going to just stay in my master bedroom. We'll use that in there for the same reason, just for music. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the performance and the sound. So when I listen to it on Bluetooth, it sounds good. I did notice while the bass was really good, the highs were really good. I noticed that something in the vocals was missing sometimes, like the lower end just was missing some of the weight, the lower end of the vocals. We compared this against a small JBL, you know, soda can looking speaker. And while that had better vocals, it had more forward vocals, the TreSound1 had much better bass and a better top end. It's kind of like the JBL was pushing the vocals a little bit, but it did have better vocals. There's not really anything it sounded bad at. It's just there were certain times where I could tell something was slightly missing. And I did notice that it sounded better. I tested it with the 3.5 millimeter jack, and I tested it against Bluetooth. Now it sounded a little bit fuller with the 3.5 millimeter jack connected, and I was actually listening to music that's on my computer. Now that could have a lot to do with the Bluetooth, you know, my phone. So, you know, that is something to consider. But honestly, if I was going to listen to it, I'm not going to connect something to it, except maybe an Alexa. I'm going to use my phone, you know, and just stream music directly to it. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the measurements of it. And if you guys aren't familiar with this, this is actually Room EQ Wizard, which allows you to measure, you know, a speaker's performance, and you can do all kind of cool stuff with it. So I took this speaker outside, and that's very common to get a raw, you know, with no interaction from the room, see what the speaker itself can do. Now, we really want the speaker's response to be flat, plus or minus 3 dB. And if you look on the left, you'll see Those are the dB, that's the energy from the speaker. Those are dBs. Each little block, you'll see it says 70, 80, 90. So really we wanted to kind of stay in a window of plus or minus 3 dB, which is 6 dB swing, so that's kind of a lot. The tighter they are, more linear, the better. All right, so here we have two responses. The first one that we're gonna look at is red. Red was actually outdoors. That is more of like an anechoic, a raw, no room interaction at all, what the speaker is actually doing. Now you're gonna notice at 600 hertz, it just kind of drops off. The woofer and everything is not as loud as the rest of them from 600 hertz on up. So that is an issue, especially if it's out in the middle of a room, it's not on a wall, against a wall or something like that. But you'll also notice that around 10,000 hertz, the response kind of picks up. That's above where most of us can hear anyway. It was not an issue whatsoever. The highs, you know, during listening, they were fine. There's no problem with the highs at all. So we can kind of ignore that. That's not something that's gonna be a big deal really. At least not up as high as it is. The response other than that looks pretty good. It's pretty linear. You know, the mid-range and the tweeter, I don't know exactly where they're crossing, but they're probably crossing 2,500 hertz, 3,000 hertz. There's nothing there that looks like there's any drivers out of phase. It looks really good between those two. Of course, the only issue we have is where it just drops off in the low end. But we're not gonna use it like that. This is, you know, a speaker we're gonna have on a shelf or something like that, or at least hopefully, because look at what happens when we put it on a shelf or up against a wall. When you put anything that produces bass against a wall, you have something called boundary gain, which greatly helps the low end. So you may not have a lot of low end out in the middle of the room, but if you put it by a wall, all of a sudden you've got some pretty decent low end and it actually becomes much more enjoyable. So if we look at the yellow, that's exactly what happened. I put it in this corner right here actually. Now this corner is not really the kind of corner you're gonna have in your house. This little section right here of wall is only 18 inches deep, so it's not like a full wall. We would have even more gain. The bottom end would look even better if this was a full wall. Here we get a lot of absorption, acoustic absorption, so that's kind of hurting a little bit as well. But even with that, it helped tremendously. So in the corner right there, it would sound really, really good. If you put it on a wall, just on a wall on a flat, you know, part of the wall on a shelf, it's gonna sound good. TV stand or any type of stand up against a wall, I would really advise with this speaker it needs to be used that way. Get it up against a wall. Now notice even with the boundary gain, we still have issues from 150 to 350 hertz or so. There's still a hole there. That's what I was hearing whenever, you know, I had the lack of the bottom end of the vocals. The vocals just sounded kind of thin, didn't have any weight or enough weight at the bottom. So that explains it right there, what I was hearing. So yeah, overall, the speaker is a fantastic looking speaker. I mean, it's a work of art. When you put it in a room, I mean, it looks like an art piece in the room. It has a really good sound for a Bluetooth speaker. It's got good bass, it's got good highs. Most of the frequency response looks really good. It's just got that one little spot down there that for some people that may be a deal breaker. Overall, it does sound good. With jazz, things like that, it was just very, very good. And there's some music where the vocals were really good. It just depends on what you're listening to, but overall, it's a fun speaker. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for this one. This is the TreSound1. Links are down in the description. You can save 60 bucks with the code 60guru. That's also down in the description, so go check it out. Check out the other colors. I kind of like that black and gold, but the wife wanted this. It does kind of go with our decor. I just think that black and gold look really cool. Plus, Saints colors, you know, I'm a Saints fan, so. That's gonna be it for this one, guys. Give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when the next videos come out, and I will see y'all for the next one.